It's okay.
Good evening and welcome, and thank you those of you that are joining us online. My name is Ben Boxer, and I am the Public Information Officer for the Fairfax County Park Authority. We welcome you to this evening's discussion regarding the design for the future Mount Vernon Woods Skate Park. This meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be made available online within the next day or so on our public input webpage at engage.fairfaxcounty.gov/Mount Vernon Woods. And I'm actually going to take a moment and just put that link into the chat just to get that going for this evening. The agenda for this evening's meeting will include a brief overview of the project by our project manager, Heather Lynch, followed by a presentation of the preliminary concept plan to help get the design discussion started. Following that presentation, we'll open things up for comments and questions from the community, and we'll talk a little bit more about how we'll do that a little bit later on. Before we dive in, I do want to acknowledge the presence of several Park Authority staff and leadership that are here this evening, as well as Franconia District Supervisor Rodney Lusk. I'm very pleased to introduce also James Baldessari of Spawn Ranch Incorporated, who will be leading the design on the skate park. Thank you all so much for joining us. For our community audience, please keep in mind that this meeting is designed to get your input for the design of the future skate park at Mount Vernon Woods Park. Even though we do have community leaders on the call, there will be no votes or action taken on the proposal this evening. As we begin, I would first like to recognize Franconia District Supervisor Rodney Lusk for some opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Ben Boxer. I appreciate that introduction. And I'll say very quickly, my name is Rodney Lusk. I'm the Franconia District Supervisor on the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. And I want to thank all of the community members for being participants in this discussion here tonight. This is a virtual meeting to discuss phase 2 of the Mount Vernon Woods Park renovation. And I am delighted that we're making progress on this very needed community asset. I know this is a community that needs this facility and is looking forward to it coming to fruition. I want to thank Jay Cole, the director of the Park Authority, for her work on this effort, as well as the Park Authority staff who've been so engaged in moving this forward. And we know how important parks are and the role that they play on our physical, emotional, and social well-being. And I just want to acknowledge having parks are significant as it provides access for people in the areas of fitness and recreation, also in the areas of leisure activities, and can enrich the lives of the residents here in the Franconia District. So I am very much interested in hearing your thoughts and suggestions as we move through this discussion here tonight. And as I said, I'm just delighted about the opportunity for this second phase of Mount Vernon Woods Park. So with that, I will conclude my remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Lusk, and we certainly appreciate your continued support for the work that we're undertaking at Mount Vernon Woods Park. Sure. As we get started with this evening's presentation, I would ask those in attendance to please hold any and all questions until after our presentation has concluded. Once we get to that point, I'll go over how we can facilitate your comments and questions for a dialogue. I'm happy to turn the time over at this time to Heather Lynch and Jason Baldessari for the presentation of this evening's discussion.
Well, good evening, and thank you all again. Thank you for attending. As you're aware, Mount Vernon Woods Park is currently under construction. This park is being renovated in 2 phases. Phase 1 will include additional parking lot, soccer field, multi-sport court, a shelter, and a playground, which is scheduled to be complete in early 2025. Phase 2 includes a skate park, which is why we're here today, with the anticipation completion of design by spring 2025 and starting construction by fall 2025 or earlier. Jason with Spawn Ranch is with us here tonight and to start the discussion of the design. So Jason, I hand it off to you.
Thank you, Heather. Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for everyone that is attending, and looking forward to getting through the presentation, kind of having some question and answer. And really, the whole goal of what we're trying to accomplish here is me and everyone in my office, we've all whether it's skateboarding, BMX bike, anything on wheels is something we've done our entire lives. And for us, we know that we can design skate parks in a vacuum that anyone would be happy with. But at the end of the day, this is your project, this is your community, this is your skate park. So the whole idea is for us to really get through the presentation and have a lot of input from you, so that this way that the community is actually shaping and kind of molding what this design is ultimately going to be. So without any further ado, I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint that we have and get the ball rolling. So as I mentioned before, the idea here is really for us to have a lot of interaction going back and forth. But I think in order to really do that in a meaningful way, it'd be really good for you to understand a little bit about my background, and a little bit about Spawn Ranch, where we come from. I mean, some of you that are on this call, if you're avid skate enthusiasts, you might be familiar with our work. We've previously done 2 other parks for Fairfax County. One is Lake Fairfax Park. And then previously we had also done, at the same time that we did Lake Fairfax, we had also done the very first renovation of Wakefield. So the very first concrete phase. Wakefield was always a prefab ramp park. We had the opportunity to come in and take some of that space and add on a concrete skate plaza. I know since then there's been additional work out there, but that very first section of concrete that went down at Wakefield was a project that we designed and built, and again, along with the Lake Fairfax Park. We've done a bunch of stuff in and around the area, all over Virginia, all over Maryland. So I'm sure if you're not familiar with any of our work, there's a good chance you've probably skated one of our parks at one point or another. But just to kind of give you a little bit of background, or just to kind of give you a quick outline of what we're going to be discussing. So I'm going to go over a little bit of background on myself, introduce you to Spawn Ranch. I want you guys to really understand like what our design approach is and what we're thinking about and what we're looking for when we're putting our designs together. Want to go over from a high level, kind of a project analysis. Not every site, not every project is created equal. So there's a number of different factors that ultimately shape and kind of steer us in different directions when we're working on projects. So I want to make sure you guys understand kind of what we're working with, and essentially what we've got from a site, all the way from a site through geotechnical, which is just another fancy word for what kind of soils and dirt are we working with. All the way through, where, can we go in ground? Where's our water table at? Obviously going in ground impacts the ability to do bowls and stuff like that. So I want to make sure you guys understand what this project's all about. We'll look at a couple of precedent designs that kind of just something I think that kind of can set an expectation for what this project can ultimately be in terms of size, scale, different types of features. And then one of the most important things I think we're going to talk about, the next 2 line items on this outline here, to me, are the 2 most important. The first is the online survey. So the project information website that Ben referenced earlier is going to have a link to a survey. That survey is going to be live for 2 weeks. And the whole idea there is that we have a bunch of questions. Some are quite, very yes or no, choose your answer, but there's also a lot of open-ended questions. So we very much encourage you, any of your friends that live in Fairfax County. We're not necessarily looking for what anyone who doesn't live in Fairfax County. This isn't technically their project. The county's paying for this, so we really want to hear from the residents of Fairfax County for what they want to see in this park. But ultimately, what that survey does is it helps us to build a profile of what the group is. So when I'm sitting down with my design team and we get to a fork in the road and we decide, do we go left for a little bit more street, or do we go right for a little bit more transition? We can fall back on this survey to really understand what we think the best decision would be and what's in the best interest of the group based on the profile that survey has created. So we'll talk a little bit more about the survey as we get through the presentation. But again, the website that Ben mentioned and he had put into the chat, I believe earlier, that will have a link to that survey. Encourage you to take it, encourage you to share it with any of your friends that maybe aren't able to make it to the meeting tonight. and anyone who you think would be able to provide good value, valuable insight to what we want to ultimately see in this skate park. And then the last part of the presentation is going to be really just open discussion. As Ben mentioned, there's going to be a way for you guys to call in. I think there's also a chat that's going to be getting monitored. So we will we'll do the question and answer that way. I'll do my best to answer everyone's questions. And yeah, excited to kind of get the ball rolling here. So let's dive right in. So as Ben and Heather introduced, my name is Jason. I am actually born and raised in New Jersey. So I had some family in Virginia. So I used to spend some of my summers kind of running down there. If I remember correctly, I think it was called King's Dominion was the kind of theme park that we always seemed to go to every summer. But yeah, as I got older, I found skateboarding and used to make my way around different areas of Virginia, skating whatever I can get my hands on. I'm 42 years old, so the time when I was running around Virginia, there wasn't too many public skate parks on offer. So excited to be working here with you guys today to kind of be making that change. I grew up on a surfboard, a skateboard, a snowboard. The way I always explain it to people is if you can stand sideways and there's a good chance you're going to hurt yourself and or have a lot of fun, I was basically drawn to that as a kid. I went to school at Monmouth University, which is a small college right on the beach up in New Jersey. I moved to San Diego about 17 years ago, and I split time between San Diego and Bend, Oregon. One of the reasons I like to bring that up is it's, even though I'm born and raised in New Jersey, I spent a lot of time just kind of skating everywhere, anywhere and everywhere that would allow me, and I wasn't getting into trouble. So I've been with Spawn Ranch for about 19 years now. I've done projects, everything from across the country, working with Fairfax County and other stuff on the East Coast, stuff in our backyard here with the city of San Diego, but also overseas. We've done stuff in Saudi Arabia, Israel, China, Japan. We even built a skate park on base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So it's been really cool to see all the different places that skateboarding and skate park development can take someone. As you can see here, I also mentioned special events. So we've done stuff we helped bring the Dew Tour into concrete. Not sure if anyone on this call might have attended, but when Dew Tour used to be held in Ocean City, Maryland, we were who created the portable concrete bowl. And some of the other events that was held around Dew Tour. We do a lot of the crazy stuff that Red Bull dreams up. Some of the bigger, more marquee ones, we helped Danny Way jump over the Great Wall of China back in the day. The acid drop he did off the Hard Rock guitar in Vegas. So skateboarding is an amazing platform to kind of show you what the world has to offer, and excited to be bringing this to your community. So Spawn Ranch was formed in 1995. These two black and white pictures, I think we keep these pictures as black and white just to kind of rib our founder a little bit because he's now getting a little bit on the older side. But this is in the left picture here. This is Aaron Spawn. He's our founder. Aaron used to, and his buddies, every single weekend would build a quarter pipe somewhere. They grew up in Venice, California. And Aaron's in his, I think, mid 60s now. So they build a really sketchy ghetto quarter pipe, like you can see in this picture. And then and they'd skate it all weekend and have a blast. And then come Monday, Public Works would come through with a bulldozer, take everything down. So Aaron and his buddies started showing up to city council meetings, trying to lobby to get a skate park built. But at the time, people still really didn't even know what skateboarding was or what it really could be. So the second picture over, this is Aaron sitting in his backyard at his house. He had a ranch style house, and his last name Spawn. He had actually built 2 vert ramps in his backyard, and living near Venice, he was very close to LAX. So every traveling pro, whether you had a skateboard, you had at the time roller skates, not even inline, roller skates were really big, and BMX bikes were big. So just about every traveling pro coming through Southern California and going through Los Angeles was coming to Aaron's house to ride. As word kind of spread about these 2 vert ramps in this crazy guy's backyard in Venice, near Venice, he got a call from a group called ESPN, as I'm sure everyone on this call is familiar with that name. And they had this crazy idea for a thing called X Games that I would also venture to guess that most people on this call are familiar with. So Spawn Ranch, this is before my time, but Spawn Ranch actually designed and built the first 5 years of the X Games. And to kind of qualify this for some of the more avid skate enthusiasts on here, The very first street course was built in Mission Beach, which is actually just about 5 minutes down the road from currently sitting right here. And Tony Hawk had actually placed, he had medaled in the street course event. Anyone who knows Tony knows he's not a street guy. He's known for vert, which is what what you see in this right-hand picture here. But that kind of goes to show you how long we've been in this game. So did the first 5 or 6 years of X Games. And that really kind of helped seal the idea for Aaron that skate parks and the skate park company could actually be a viable career path and something that communities would want to invest in. So you fast forward to today and we're not building thankfully we're not building quarter pipes that look like this picture on the top left. Everything that we're doing today is all concrete. There's a number of different ways to do concrete, and every possible discipline that there is when it comes to concrete is something that we bring to our projects. So what does Spawn Ranch look like today? Today we're at probably 1,000+ projects, both public and private. Most of the work that we do is in the public sector. Occasionally we find some really cool and unique and interesting private projects to get involved with. Formed in 1995, 32+ years of dedication to really action sports. As most of the people on this call know, whether you're in BMX or you're interested in scootering, you're interested in skateboarding, roller skating, inline, as long as it doesn't have wheels, and it's something you can recreate on, we have designed and built facilities for that. We even do mountain bike trails and mountain bike training courses. So we've very much expanded outside of skate parks as well, but I would very much say skate parks makes up about 90% of our business. Headquartered in Los Angeles, the birthplace, kind of continued epicenter of skateboarding and professional skateboarding. As I mentioned before, we've done projects all over the world. More of the recent ones I mentioned I had worked on: Saudi Arabia, Israel, China, Japan. We've got stuff going in Budapest right now. So it's really interesting to see how much skateboarding is growing. The United States, as most of you know, is the birthplace of skateboarding. But now with it getting into the Olympics and seeing the impact that the Olympics have had, it's mind blowing on what's happening with skateboarding and the places that it's going now and will continue to go. This sport is going to grow exponentially. And one of the coolest facts that came out of the Olympics was, while it might not have had the highest viewership, soccer seems to always take that, the world sport that seems to always take the cake. Skateboarding of all the sports had the most engagement. So what does that mean? It's the most people talking about it online, the more people interacting with each other through social media. So I think skateboarding, we just got through our second Olympic cycle. We're approved for the Olympics in Los Angeles. So it's really interesting to see how much this is going to continue to grow. I mentioned before some of the special events. We don't do them as much as we used to anymore, but still get our hands, still do everything. I think the closest one to you guys that we do every year is the ECSC contest in Virginia Beach. We set up a vert ramp on the beach there for the I think it's Eastern East Coast Professional Championships for surfing. Our entire team made up of skateboarders, architects, concrete craftsmen, and support staff. We're not just people who talk the talk. Everyone in our office walks the walk, and the same with the vast majority of our crew. We do have a few construction professionals that are a little on the older side that really are there to kind of direct traffic. But at the end of the day, anyone who's building a skate park for your community is going to be someone who innately knows skateboarding inside and out, lives it, eats it, breathes it, understands the difference between a quarter pipe here, there, and there, understands coping reveal, understands all the things that really make a skate park tick. So you're going to be in very good hands. We have 15 in-office employees and about 30+ traveling construction crew going around the country year round and occasionally around the globe. So want to go over design approach. And ultimately, as I mentioned before, this design is going to be shaped by you guys. One of the things I do like to make sure that I say in the very beginning of this presentation is, I'm not totally sure how many people we have on the call at the moment because I'm presenting, but everyone has a different opinion and everyone has different things that they like or they want to see in the skate park. So for us, it's our job to kind of help figure out how to translate all the information, all the input, and all the opinions that we have. So I don't want anyone to feel bad if they ask for something and ultimately it doesn't wind up in the final design. We've only got so much budget that we're able to work with. We've only got so much space we were able to work with. And we've got some specific constraints. And I mentioned before, when we go through the project analysis, I can explain what some of those are that ultimately dictate to some level which direction we can take this design. But also at the end of the day, we want to be able to take all the information you're providing and use as much of that as possible to put a design together that makes decisions in the best interest of the entire view. So one of the things that we look for in our skate parks, and you'll see in a lot of modern skate parks, is the idea of architectural lines and vibrant colors. I'm sure there's plenty of older, especially on the concrete side skate parks, where you have these kind of just big gray blobs that sit in communities. So not too, and really that was up until about 15 years ago, that was kind of the standard. You just saw these gray blobs everywhere. And now what's happened is the idea is mixing in a little bit of fashion and aesthetic to the functionality of what a skate park is. One thing I want to be crystal clear on: we will never ever sacrifice functionality to increase an aesthetic of the park. Function is always, without a doubt, our very first kind of pillar that we're trying to hit with every project that we get into. But at the end of the day, we want these things to look nice. You know, we want people to be able to, even if you don't skate, to be able to appreciate it from an aesthetic point of view. So these are just a couple different examples of projects that we've done that have kind of some different colors, different color patterns mixed in. At the end of the day, it's really just there's nothing functional about this. It's strictly just aesthetically making this pleasing. You know, we have this whole brand new phase 1 park that got built that I've seen renderings of, I've seen images of, and we have this beautiful park out there. And I think the idea is that we want this skate park to kind of fit in like a puzzle piece. You know, and the way they really help make that happen is through an aesthetic perspective. So local culture and heritage. You know, skateboarding and skate parks for a long time were just, again, the gray blobs. No one really thought about the aesthetics of them. In this day and age, you know, when information moves faster, you know, every day information basically moves faster than it did the day before. So when we build a skate park, let's say we build a skate park in your community tomorrow, undoubtedly within a couple of days, sometimes it's less than 24 hours, we'll be getting emails, we'll be getting website hits, submissions, we'll get things on social media from people reaching out from all over the world, asking us about a specific project. And one of the cool things about this is these help to create like an identifier for the project. So it's not just another gray blob. So a couple examples here, top left corner, this is a project we did with Tony Hawk Foundation in Long Beach, California. So LB City was the kind of tag that we put on that one. Top right-hand corner, this is actually, this is our main designer. This is Charlie Wilkins. Not sure if we have any older skaters on the call, but Charlie was a former pro for Five Borough, a bunch of other companies. He's originally an East Coast guy, born and raised in Boston, currently lives in Rhode Island. So Charlie will be the main designer, you know, born and bred East Coast guy that would be designing this park. This picture, you can kind of see we have this bump to bump here. Hopefully you guys can see, but there's what kind of like a snow cap paint that's on the top of the bump, each one of these bumps. What you can't see in this picture is the guy. I wish the photographer was standing on the other side. But directly behind the photographer is Mount Rainier up in Washington State. So the idea here is we wanted to create this bump to bump to kind of be an ode to the mountain that's right there. So as you're literally standing in this park, if the camera was turned around, you'd be looking straight out at Mount Rainier. Lower left, this is somewhere in Minnesota. I'm drawing a blank on exactly where, but this is one of the more interesting ones. So this is actually, they host the world's largest stagecoach gathering. I didn't even know that was necessarily a thing, but apparently it is. So the idea behind that, and it's something they're very proud of, which I think is awesome. The idea behind this one was to take a fake stagecoach wheel, so it's a steel like replica wheel, set it into the bank, and this is a very heavy kind of BMX park, so they wanted to set this up as like a really big kind of step up. So instead of your Euro or having kind of like a little trash can or cone, that's something you'll see at a lot of parks. They put it at the top of banks if there's nothing there. Works as now a big step up. The lower right-hand corner, this is a project we did in Anaheim, California. Anaheim, and in addition to being known for Disneyland and a whole bunch of other stuff, they grow lots and lots of oranges there. So one of the things that came out of that design, at a design meeting there from the community, was to really kind of pay tribute to that. So we kind of have we call our orange slice bump to bump. As mentioned before, I've done 2 projects in Fairfax County. Grew up in the East Coast, spent a lot of time in Virginia, but at the end of the day, you guys all very much know your community a lot better than I will. So there's a question in the survey that asks, like, what are some of the things that you would want to see represented in the skate park that represent the community? So these are kind of some examples from other communities, but something to keep in mind, because at the end of the day, we want people to know that this is not just another community skate park. We want to know that we want everyone to know this is going to be the Mount Vernon Woods skate park. Part of that from a community side too is it helps draw people in when they know where the park is. They're then coming to use the park. They're buying gas locally. They're going to 7-Eleven. They're getting pizza. It's raising the tax base for the community. So we'll very much be deferring to you guys for any sort of nods that we can bring into the park that represent Fairfax County. Textures. So every design meeting, this inevitably comes up. There's lots of different ways to bring unique materials and textures into a skate park. So top left, you can see this is a LA high wall. If you zoom, I'm not sure how clearly you can see it on your screens, but we've got the brick stamp texture on here. You'll never actually see anyone use real brick in a park. Real brick is very, very brittle, and it crumbles and breaks down, and it's something that would need to get replaced almost constantly. And we don't want to create more headache, maintenance, or cost of ownership here than we really need to. So we can do different patterns, whether it's brick, herringbone. You guys think it up, and as long as they make a stamp for it or a form liner, it's something that we can bring into the park. I know personally myself, I'm a big fan of textures, whether it's pool coping, diamond grind style coping, or stamps like this. Love just having a different feeling under my feet. The second picture here in the top right corner, this is in Oskaloosa, Iowa. So we got all this tile had been donated, and we came up with the idea of doing kind of this cool tile mosaic Pier 7 hubba combination. More aesthetic than anything else. The way the tile's inset, it's all flat, so you don't actually feel it. You don't get that chatter under your wheels, but aesthetically it looks really nice. Lower left-hand corner. So this is, the idea of bringing granite, marble. These are all, obviously really unique surfaces, great to, from anyone who skates, especially on the street side of things, will know that they slide, grind really, really nicely. The one thing that I do want to, and because a lot of times we do get asked about marble and granite and these other types of materials, this is a wear item. If you look at this, you don't see any steel edging like you do on the concrete that you've seen in any of the other pictures. You can see up here on the LA high wall, wrapping around the Pier 7 combo from Oskaloosa that we were just talking about. So what that means is over time, because if we put steel on it, then it would defeat the purpose of doing the granite or marble in the first place. But over time, this is going to wear down and chunk out. The downside of that is as it gets really chunked out, if we don't have the ability to replace it, then you wind up with a ledge that no one's really going to skate after a certain period of time. So there's a couple other things we'll talk about in terms of wear items. Pool coping is another one. Doing pool coping, you're going to want to try and do that in a very strategic way, and place it in very strategic locations, just because it wears down. And I'm sure we've all been to a park before where the line in the bowl sets you up for this exact spot, and you have 2 pieces of pool coping that have been popped out, not replaced, and now you really don't want to skate. Well, you want to skate the bowl, but now you got to go find a different line, even though that was kind of the preferred line through the bowl. So wear items can very much be a problem in parks, and something we're going to be mindful of. I'll be talking with the county on, because at the end of the day, we don't want to sign them up for maintenance that they don't have the bandwidth to perform. Because I think it ultimately is just going to impact your ability to use the park. Lower right-hand corner, this is a project actually in Bend, Oregon. And what we did here was really cool. As we were excavating the park, we unearthed this beautiful slab. And this little ramp wasn't supposed to be in our original design, but our guys we couldn't just walk away from that slab. It looked too pretty, and we wanted to find a really cool way to bring it into the park. And we're able to stick that to the top of the bank. So you have this really unique kind of radius bank with a rock extension sticking out. Integrated landscaping. This is what we bring into projects when we have more site than we do budget. I think right now with the site and budget that we're working with for this project, I think it's really balanced and looks really good. But a lot of times we will bring in landscaping like this because it comes at a lower per square foot cost. And as anyone on this call who knows that skates, having proper amount of run up and run out is incredibly crucial to the overall functionality and health and success of a skate park. So this is just some ideas, some examples of how we can kind of help stretch our footprints out and make sure that we're achieving all the run ups and run outs that we need. This lower right hand corner, again, this is kind of going back to the last slide talking about unique materials. This park's in North Laurel, Maryland. So this is actually set up. If we can find and you know, we obviously aren't fabricating the rocks ourselves. We're finding them from local quarries. So on occasion, we can find the right rocks where you can not only set them up to be aesthetic and somewhat skatable, you can set them up to be very skatable. So this park, you can actually transfer from one rock face to the other. Further on down in the park, there is a bump to bump section with a rock in between it that you can actually ollie up, ride on the rock, and then come back down. And what's really hard to see is all the way in the back here, we've got a volcano that has a rock on top. So you see a lot of guys going up, planting, coming down on the other side. So again, just different ways to bring in unique materials to the project. Skatable art. This is a concept that we pioneered, I would say going on 15, 16 years ago. And the whole idea was we had a project, it was a homeowner association, and they had a walking trail. And it's actually this project in the lower right-hand corner. And all they wanted to do was just have a couple of cool, unique sculptures. And Brant reached out to us and we kind of said, hey, do you mind if we tweak and play with the designs a little bit to just make it a little bit more skatable? They didn't seem to have a problem with it. And skatable art, the idea and kind of concept of skatable art was born. There's actually been some really, really cool parts filmed at this at this lower section right here. This is in South Jordan, Utah. I don't know if this is probably going back like 6 or 7 years ago, but David Gonzalez's part for Skater of the Year he had a clip here at this facility. So the idea is just, again, it's really just bringing in something sculptural, bringing in something interesting that aesthetically that pleases the eye, but still has all the functionality of your typical skate features. So top left-hand corner, this is just roller to big wall, like oververt wall ride. This is a project we did in Monmouth County, New Jersey, which is where my hometown is. This park on the right, this is Jane Reynolds here in Lancaster, California. This is right near an Air Force base. So the idea was this is supposed to be and the Air Force base is famous for that's where the stealth bomber was either invented or kept at. So this is kind of an ode to the stealth bomber. Lower left-hand corner is Daytona Beach, Florida. This is your typical pyramid, but what we did was we broke the pyramid apart. We called it a broken pyramid. And then it's kind of hard to see, but we actually cast cans and electrical cans into the bottom of it. So at night you have light that's kind of shooting up through it. So it provides a really nice aesthetic. And as I mentioned before, South Jordan and Utah, this is actually a whole trail. There's a bunch of other features on here, but I just chose this picture because this is actually the main bump in here is what as I mentioned before, the David part. He had gap from one side to the other, which is just still to this day blows my mind. All right, so kind of starting to dive into the project a bit. So this is obviously an older aerial of the site because there's been a lot of work that's happened out there. And I'm going to assume that everyone that's on this call knows and understands where the project is and what we're doing. So from the site that we just looked at here, this was kind of the proposed rendering concept plan of what the park's going to look like. This design that was dropped in here, I think Parks had put this together as just kind of a place card holder to represent the fact that we were going to be doing a skate park in this project. So don't read into that too much, just a place card holder. And again, from like a top-down 2D perspective, just to make sure you guys can fully understand everything that's happening out there. And again, this is our skate park area that we're going to be working with right in here. So mentioned before, the different factors in that shape and ultimately sculpt what our design is going to be. One is insurance. not everything is insurable. As you can imagine, getting a 5-foot quarter pipe out there versus a 20-foot quarter pipe, insurance is going to look at that in two, the municipal insurance, the county's insurance will look at that in two very different ways. So we want to make sure that whatever we design is in alignment with what the county can get insured for. Otherwise, we can't build it and you guys can't skate it. So that'll be one of the main boxes we need to check. Topography, soil conditions, and drain inverts. So there's a lot here to unpack. These are probably three of the main drivers of what are ultimately what we can and can't do on the site. At the end of the day, I always explain to people is you want to design with the site in mind, you don't want to design against the site. So topography, we're in a fortunate position where everything's relatively flat out there. So that's a really good starting point. Soil conditions, we have a geotechnical report. I didn't see anything. We haven't seen anything in the geotechnical report that jumps out as like totally crazy and off the charts. So I'd say that our soil conditions are relatively in the average range. What's going to drive a lot of what we can and can't do here, and I'm curious if where the conversation ultimately goes and the feedback we get from the survey. But drain invert. So what is a drain invert? Drain invert is basically the bottom of the existing drain on site that we would then if we did a bowl where we went subterranean, that we would tie into. So right now the drain inverts on site are very, very shallow. I think at best we might have the ability to go in ground 1 foot, which, as anyone on this call who's an avid skater, avid wheel enthusiast will know, that's not really going to get us much in the way of a fun bowl. So that is something we're going to want to talk about. I think the inverts that we're working with on site are going to definitely be a driver of our design. Going back one slide, you can see we've got basketball court right next to the skate park. We've got walking path on all 4 sides, and we've got the soccer field up to the north of it. So those are what I would all consider adjacent amenities. So we want to make sure that we're designing this park in a way where it doesn't have any sort of negative impact on what's happening around it. As most of you know on this call, and anyone who doesn't, skateboarding really breaks down into 2 genres, and it's street and transition. So street kind of really means more like your stairs, your ledges, your rails, your hubbas, where transition really kind of lends itself more to like bowls, pump tracks, anything that's just more flowy in nature. So very interested. Every community we work with is different. We've had some communities where they want 100% transition. We have others at 100% street. It seems today to me, and what I've kind of gleaned from doing this for as long as I have and doing as many meetings as I have, is it's less now about having just one type of skating, but the idea of producing a really well-rounded skater. You look at the Olympics even breaks down between park, which is what we would call transition, and street. So the Olympics has kind of chopped skateboarding in 2, and I think a lot of the parks that we're developing is kind of doing the same thing, where we're trying to find some sort of a balance. We're seeing less and less of the 100% transition or 100% street, and trying to strike the right balance for what the community is interested in. Another big part of kind of impacting the adjacent amenities, but just really for safety in general, is understanding and thinking about what visibility and sight lines look like. We want people to be able to come in, keep an eye on what's going on, want to be able to see through the park. We don't want to create hiding spaces. That's just, whether that's a skate park or a playground or any sort of amenity at a public park. I think most anyone from the county would agree that sightlines and visibility are very crucial to the overall success of any facility. The end goal here is that we want to take this project, and I know we keep using the word skate park. In the very beginning, it said skate park design. We've used the word skate park a lot, but the reality is we're looking for wheel friendly. And skate park is kind of morphed into wheel friendly. And what that means is, as long as it doesn't have a motor on it and it's a recreational device, we want you to be able to come here, not only enjoy yourself, but also find features in here that you can challenge yourself with. So whether you're on a skateboard, you're on a BMX bike, you're on a scooter, you're on rollerblades. One of the big things that's happened out in California and the West Coast, and I'm really kind of seeing it grow everywhere, because there was actually in the project I'm working on in Maryland was the same thing. There's a really big contingent of roller skaters, mostly on the female side of things. And it kind of came out, really started blossoming during the pandemic. And in the beginning, it was probably one of the scariest things I'd ever seen in a skate park. And within like a year now, those same girls that I was watching and kind of scared about, they're now like doing backflips in the bowl. It's really, really impressive to see what they're able to do. So the idea here is all ages, all abilities, all wheels. So I'm going to walk you guys through. We're kind of getting towards the end of my portion of the presentation before we start Q&A, but I want to kind of just go through some precedent designs. So these are different projects that we've built. And again, these aren't necessarily chosen because they fit in the shape that we're working within. These were more chosen based on square footage and really the square footage that I think the budget is going to be able to support. So I want to kind of provide some different ideas of just set some expectations for what this project can be. This is a project we did here in California. Had this up before earlier in the presentation. We were looking at the different colors and ways to bring aesthetics into the park. So nice balance between the community here wanted to have like one big bowl and everything else really just heavy street. So you see we got a quarter pipe in this lower left, we got a quarter pipe here. Everything else is really just heavy street. And then we've got the bowl itself. Another way to do a bowl, the reason I chose this, this would be, I mentioned the shallow water table that we have, where we maybe have the ability to go in ground about a foot at best. This is, you can see where we have the stairs coming up here with the rails and the hubba. This takes the bowl, it elevates it and brings it out of the ground. So when we do have a project that has a shallow water table, this is very much an approach that we can take to kind of help get a little bit more verticality into the bowl. Again, even in this one, I think the idea here was, I think it went up about 3 feet based on based on the stairs. This went up about 3 feet, and it probably went down about another 2 to 3 feet. So I think we won't be able to go down 2 to 3 feet, but I think if we did ultimately wind up going in the direction of a bowl or anything like that, we'd be kind of looking somewhere around maybe a 3 foot bowl, 3 to 4 foot bowl, maybe some extensions here and there. And again, that's a function of the inverts and the water table that we're working with. This is a project we did in Los Angeles. Again, this was another one where the community really wanted to see a lot more street components, but did want the idea of working in what we call a horseshoe or an open bowl. The beautiful thing about this is gives you a little bit of additional flow kind of coming in and out of it. But it's also very much something you can skate like a mini ramp, which for anyone from the county, this mini ramp or a half pipe is a very quintessential feature in a lot of skate parks, especially the prefab parks. So if you can't do a bowl, this is always a great alternative to be able to bring a mini ramp in. So you still have that ability to have like one continuous skate where you never have to stop, kind of a perpetual motion situation. This is in Ivins, Utah. So again, open bowl, but a very, very different style open bowl. This has enough wall to it, even on it's hard to see, but there's a roll-in section that rolls into it. There's enough on the roll-in section where you can actually skate this like a completely open bowl. It doesn't have to be, it's not something where you're forced to kind of have to pop out. But again, just kind of looking at the overall square footage of what I think we can expect for your project. This is, again, right around the same square footage as the last couple of designs that we've looked at. And Holiday, Utah. This is a really cool project. Wasn't actually one that I had worked on, but this is our sculpture feature. This is a sculpture feature we created that's supposed to replicate a red mountain that they have in town, which came out awesome. So you can see the guy skating on it. It fully works as if it's not just there for aesthetics. Again, we will always err on the side of functionality and never sacrifice that for aesthetics, but we're always trying to put ourselves in a position where we're kind of getting the best of both worlds. So as I mentioned before, and Ben had put the link to the project information website. It's got this PowerPoint that we looked at is going to be on there as a PDF. There'll be I think there's a link to the Spawn Ranch website if you want to get a little bit more information about who we are, look at some of our other projects, get some ideas. One of the things I always say to people is that, we're building this out of concrete. In concrete, your limits, your options are kind of limitless. So, if you've ever, seen footage of the dragon back in China and you've always wanted to skate that, but aren't willing to fly to China to go skate it, let's talk about it. Let's bring that into this project. You've always wanted to go skate Pier 7 in San Francisco. Well, let's bring that into this project. You don't need to hop on a plane to go skate those facilities. Like we're building this out of concrete. It's just a matter of what we can form up, what we can pour, and what we can finish. So yeah, keep all that in mind. Any of the stuff you've seen in video parts are all like from wherever it is in the world. We can replicate or build any of that. Again, so this is just an example. This is from Campbell County, Wyoming, project we did in the past, but this is part of like what comes out of our survey is we get all the data that's put in there. It's aggregated over it surveys out for a 2-week period. Data gets all aggregated and helps us build a profile. So you can see these are some quotes from that project. You can see what we were working with in terms of how the users consider themselves. Most of the time, these are the numbers we're seeing. It's usually the vast majority of our users are going to be intermediate. Advanced is going to be the lowest segment, and beginner will be the second most. Skateboard is still very much I would say the number one wheeled sport in terms of popularity. Every community is different. I've been proven wrong before, so always interested to see kind of how some of these numbers come back. And then again, we talked about the allocation of street to transition before. So in this project, it was 61% street, 39% transition. So again, this survey, all it's doing, it's probably going to take about 5 to 10 minutes of your time at most, but it's going to ultimately play a really big role in helping shape this park and making sure that what we put together is a reflection of what you guys are looking for. And on that note, the QR code here takes you straight to the survey. Again, the link is on the website, but I can leave this up, Ben, if that's okay with you, or if you want me to take it down, you just let me know.
Thank you, Jason. No, let's go ahead and leave it up there. And folks watching can definitely scan it. If you are watching this, you are viewing it on the public input website, and the survey is available now on that website. You can scroll down beneath this window and click the survey and participate that way. I'd like to just take a moment and thank Jason Baldessari for taking us through that. As you can see, there's a lot to consider when it comes to skate park. There's a lot of options, we appreciate his expertise in sharing those ideas with us to get this discussion going. I definitely want to emphasize, for those of you that are with us, we are interested in taking your questions and hearing comments, but definitely emphasize the fact that our survey will be up for the next 2 weeks. And we will be reaching out to communities over the course of that next 2 weeks to get your responses to questions, ideas, and thoughts on the design of the skate park. So what I'd like to do now is open up for questions. We have our project staff. We have Jason available to answer questions and address ideas. We'd like to go ahead and for those of you who would like to put comments and questions in the chat, please feel free to start doing so now. We also have a caller option if you would like to make a phone call to speak to us directly. I'm putting the instructions in the chat. Essentially, what we will want you to do is call into the chat line at 1-855. I'm sorry, that should be 1-855-925, not 025. I'll correct that here in just a moment. 925-2801. Enter code 7333. That's the meeting code. You'll want to enter the speaker menu by pressing star and then select number 3 to enter the speaking queue. We'll be taking those calls as they come in, and in just a moment I will just update those dialing instructions to correct that missed typo on the phone number. In addition, what I'd like to do is just remind everybody that we are recording this meeting, and the meeting comments and content will be made available immediately following this meeting on our website. So with that, as we go, let's go ahead and open it up, and I'll give some time to have members of the community who are listening to please share their comments. again, just by way of reminder, we do have the survey available on the website. I'll at engage.fairfaxcounty.gov/Mount Vernon Woods. It'll be open for 2 weeks for those who might be just joining us. Looking at our listing, I do not see any comments. We do not have any callers on the line.
And Ben, just to jump
Yes,
in,
please.
yeah, I mean the information we're looking for can really, it's just generally we're interested to know what ideally, if there's some features that in your opinion are make or break for this park. If you're a big proponent of flat ground, round grind rails versus square. If you think there needs to be a stair set in this park, how tall should that be? How many stairs? We're looking for any and all information that you guys want to provide. There's no, and any questions also that pop up as well. There's no such thing as bad question, and there's no such thing as bad input. The more information that we have, the better off we are in terms of being able to make sure that this is a reflection of type of park that you guys want to see. So can be, again, can be as simple as just let's talk about round versus square rails. Let's talk about ledges, manis, any features you guys are interested in making sure makes the cut here.
Thank you, Jason. Just as a quick public service announcement, as many of you also know, Mount Vernon Woods Park is currently under construction, and there have been several questions over the course of the project related to the project. If you do have questions, we definitely want to have you send those to our project manager, Heather Lynch, at heather.lynch, Lynch, at fairfaxcounty.gov. And we can, if you are on the call having questions about the overall project, you may contact our project manager directly, and we'll get those responded to. Excellent. I'm just seeing some activity. All right, we've just done a quick check. We don't have anyone in the speaker queue. And I'm not seeing any particular comments or questions in the chat. Oh, we have a comment here. I'm not a skateboarder, so I'm curious, what is the demand for a skate park for our residents? That is a great question, and I think that might lend itself to a discussion of some of the work we've done with the master plan for the project, where that discussion took place. Adam, could you maybe talk about that a little bit?
Hi, certainly, Ben. My name's Adam Wynn. I'm a project coordinator with the Park Authority. So the whole park was planned through a master planning process that started in 2015. And through that master planning process, there was several community meetings. And through that, there was several individuals in the public that expressed interest in a skate park. And then also through that process, I think there was even a workshop at the adjacent elementary school where they asked students to give their ideas for what they'd like to see in the park and draw pictures. And through that, several students also wanted to see a skate park in the park, along with all the other facilities you see in the master plan today, which is the sport court, soccer field, playground. So that's how that all came about. Then when we got funding for the project in 2020 and it was put on the bond list, that's when we started to basically make the design of the park more real and look at the site design and then eventually bring Jason here on board. So.
Thank you, Adam. Really appreciate that.
Yep.
This has definitely been something in the works for some time, and we appreciate the participation of the community throughout that entire process. Give just another couple of seconds in case there might be some other comment or action on the phone lines at this point. We are not seeing any. So hearing and seeing no further questions, what we would like to do is we'll go ahead and close the public meeting virtually. Just again reinforcing that over the next 2 weeks we will be reaching out into the community, to the skating community, to really push participation in our survey. This is vital for us in helping to design the components that really match your vision and your desire and interest for the skate park to make this a wonderful amenity for our community. We're very excited about it, and we know that there are many as well that are excited as well. So just one quick reminder that we will be sending that out. And if you do have questions, please visit our website at engage.fairfaxcounty.gov/Mount Vernon Woods. Just a quick note of the timeline. Right now, we're doing the survey for 2 weeks. We anticipate that the results of that survey will inform a series of concept designs that will be made available by early November. Those concept designs will be available for public input for a period of 30 days, after which we'll be making final decisions on designs and moving forward with the project. So lots more to come, lots more discussion. We look forward to your participation and engagement throughout. So we thank you very much and wish you a very pleasant evening. Have a good night.
Take care, Ben.